a song called "I'm Looking for a Miracle." Because are you looking for one? Okay.
So the affirmation of the day is, I expect a miracle, and the sky is the limit to what I can have, which goes perfectly with today's talk. But I just want to just say that before I get into my talk, I've heard it said, and I believe it, that the Bible is a sort of a manual for spiritual evolution, culturally and individually, and that we all have Bible moments. We have moments when we've left something that we hung on to, even though it was a burden. How many of you have ever had a burden you hung on anyway? Yeah, Bible time. Who said it's irrelevant? You leave it, but then sometimes you leave it and you don't have any place to go yet. How many of you have done that? Now that is scary. And sometimes incredibly necessary and very brave of you, by the way. And then you move into your greater yet to be, but you had to let go of the greater yet, the greater has been or husband. Anyway, to all the past honeys watching, hello. Anyway, that was just a joke and it was really bad, but you're laughing because you could identify. Anyway, so we let go of things so that we can accept something greater. I love that Reverend Michael has found his Dharma, and yet part of his flight through life was that when he was actually a trapeze, training to be a trapeze artist, Michael. And to get the next, what do they call it, pole? Well, the trapeze, but the bar, to get the next bar, you got to let go of the old bar while you're flying through the air with the greatest of ease. So sometimes we have to do that, and yet eventually we land in a place that is better, and that was the story of the children of Israel. The children of Israel let go of living in Egypt, wandered for a while, and I've been in the Sinai, and I know what that's like. There are oases, but it's not exactly the land of milk and honey. And yet, they could see that it was available, that's where they were going, but they still had to be in tents for a while. And so we've been in this beautiful tent. It's not a bad tent, don't you think? We've been in a beautiful tent. We have a tent in Northgate. We've had a tent in Finney Ridge. We've had lots of tents, and we're starting to collect back together again into our promised land. So the first service will be April 28th, and I hope you can make it. And I'm really grateful for all of the people that went ahead of time and ahead of us to make the way, to make it clean, to make it hospitable, so that we really move into something beautiful. So I'm really grateful. And in the meantime, there are all the stories in the Sinai, lots of stories, lots of things happened in the wilderness. And one of the things that has happened is that I took a group of prayer practitioners on a retreat last week. Some of them are official practitioners, and some of them are training to be official practitioners, but everyone is a practitioner because Ernest Holmes said anybody that practices is a practitioner. So you're a practitioner. You just have to ask yourself, of what? No one in this room, but I know you know people who practice revenge, gossip, and pessimism. They practice it. They're skilled at it. Something happens and they immediately see how it's going to go wrong. They're so good. And then there are also practitioners of optimism, love, and encouragement. And I hope that that's what you sign up for. And it's definitely what our choir is doing. That song was filled with love because you love each other and you love us. You love us enough to practice and become good. That song was filled with optimism. The sky is the limit to what we can have. And it was filled with encouragement. Believe in a miracle. It's just, that's what we can practice. And we love to be around people who are practicing that. And I believe that that's why people show up here, is so that they can be in the presence of people practicing that kind of attitude. Anyway, while I was there at that retreat, I noticed that people were lightening up, and powering up. They were not becoming different. They were becoming more of the incarnation they intended to be. It's not a change. You know, I was actually wrote this down, transformation. Do you know transformation means to be radically changed? Who signs up for that? Oh yeah, make me really different. But we do sign up for a thing of becoming, of really being our best self more often than not. And when I was there, and I said this to everyone at the retreat, I said that I think Sundays are just an introduction to the transformative power of a spiritual-centered life. There's not a lot that I can do in 20 minutes, but boy, I will give you my best shot at it. But then I encourage you to take whatever I give you and practice it yourself, and especially get in a group to practice it. So look for classes or support groups or retreats that will help you deepen in what you're going to hear today or any day, so that we become not just hearers of the good word or the good news, but we actually become doers of that. Sundays are also an opportunity for being with like-minded people so that we can remember together the power of having a spiritual life. And I say remember together because I don't think you're going to hear anything new. I don't think we show up and hear something new. We just hear what we know and we want to hear it again. Sort of like, have you ever heard I love you too much by someone you love? And have you ever heard I appreciate you too much by someone that you want to have appreciate you? You can't hear I love you too much, I appreciate you too much. Wow, you're doing a great job. No one can tell you how great you are too much. Is anybody like, oh no, I don't want to hear how, well, yeah, that's true, but you're going to be healed after that, after today. Some of you don't want to hear it, but today you'll be healed. And you'll say, oh yeah, tell me some more. I love to hear it. We love to hear how good we are. So, on Sundays, we do little stretches. It's sort of like going to a yoga class where you're asked to move into a particular pose a little bit more than you've ever moved into it before. And then you realize the next week you can actually get into that pose and move a little bit more. Pretty soon you're doing things you didn't know you could do, just a little stretch at a time. So here's today's stretch. Take notes. You want to take notes, by the way. Last service, ladies weren't, and then one woman wasn't taking notes, and then she was looking around for a pen. We had to stop everything and get her a pen and a paper. So take notes. This is worth it. This is the stretch of the day. I want you to expand your mind to consider. You will always have as much love, respect, opportunities, support, and well-being as you can handle. Right now, you have as much good in your life as you can handle. And some of you are handling a lot, and some of you are handling what you think is a lot, and some of you are handling what you can handle, but you wish you could handle a lot. There's always more, by the way. That's the whole point. For those of you that want more study, this is called a mental equivalent. We have a mental equivalence of what we can handle. I call it, how good can you take it? How good can you stand it? And a mental equivalent is the law of how good you can take it, and it's like a mental ceiling. And I've watched people, I've done this so long. I've watched people do spiritual practice, things get good, and they hit something, and they kind of tremble and go back down. Get good, yeah. Because this makes them uncomfortable. So there's no breakthrough. I'll give you some illustrations, because it really doesn't work without sometimes having a story. I've got a bunch of definitions that I want to use, and because they're just, I think we bat around words a lot, like transformation means to be radically changed. I would say a transformation is to shed the skin that keeps us from glowing the way we're supposed to glow, but that's just mine. Enlightenment. My new definition of enlightenment is that it is when we appreciate what we have, but know it could be better. We appreciate what we have, but know we could be better. That's enlightenment. I'll give you some examples. Someone left our retreat on Thursday and asked everyone to pray that they feel healthy for an event they were going to go to on Friday. So the request is, I'm not feeling good, but I've got to do this event. I want you to pray that I'm healthy and that I feel well at the event. So everybody prayed. They sent out an email and said, guess what? It worked. I felt great, had no problem. After the event was over, I got in my car and got very sick. What I realized is I should have just prayed to be well. See how that's an enlightening moment? Like, oh, I could have had health. Instead of, I want to be okay to get through this event, I could have just been healthy. There was a time when I used these principles to get a job that I was absolutely not qualified for. In fact, most jobs I applied for, the only 2 jobs I ever applied for, I wasn't qualified for. And it came out of this particular teaching. I was young, I was in my mid-20s, and what I wanted, I was so tired of working for other people, I told God I wanted to be my own boss, I wanted to travel, and I wanted to make my own schedule. Thank you very much. And I got a job with a national nonprofit, being a field representative for 16 states, and I was traveling all over making my own schedule and doing everything I wanted to do, and I had an assistant, thank you very much. Because I don't spell. Who says you have to spell to get ahead? It's a belief. And I was really good at doing what I was supposed to do, which is in those 16 counties, I had to organize 3 fundraisers per year per county. And I usually had 3 days to do it in because if I had to stay longer, I had to go to another county. It's like you get in, you get out. And sure enough, I learned all the tricks about how to meet people that I never knew. Meet people, recruit. I had to meet them, recruit them, and train them and get out. And I'll tell you, I was very good at it and was really tiresome. But sure enough, I did it over and over and over again. And then I had this thought driving to this town and thinking, oh, goody, I get to go meet new people and get them all excited about my cause and sign them up and train them how to put on a fundraiser. Yay. Why don't they just start calling me? And you know what? It got so easy. Somehow, people would call me. This is before cell phones. This is before nobody was on the internet. I mean, it was like a miracle. My assistant would call and say, somebody's calling from such and such a county, and they heard about the March of Diamonds, and they really want to do some work with us. And that's the town I'm moving to. I mean, it was a miraculous thing. I used to work really hard selling large PBXs when they had large PBXs for the phone company. And I finally decided, you know what? I don't like these cold calls. Have them call me. Do you see that's an enlightened idea? That we don't have to work hard for what we get? But it has to come through you. It's not, I can't tell you this. I'm going to plant seeds all over the place, and this is spring. Maybe something will take. But you have to have the idea yourself. That's enlightenment. I could have had more. This is a good life and it could be better. I can get through this or I could just not get sick. I can make my quota, but what if they just called me? That is having an expanded mental equivalent. And when we can expand, we've had an enlightened idea because it lightens us up. Someone asked me the definition of thriving because I put out there some talk titles on my Facebook page and said, and I'm going to write a book, something on about thriving and not being mediocre. And someone questioned, what's mediocre? And why do you need to thrive? Why can't you be mediocre? And okay, be mediocre. It's perfectly okay. God does not care. But my definition of thriving is being willing to take it up a notch. Just a notch. And my definition of mediocrity is being an expert coper. Some people are experts at coping, of continuing to do the status quo. Even though they're not happy, they're not thriving, they're not satisfied, they're not fulfilled, but man, they do it really well. And that was my mother. So if you would like to thrive, and if you would like to just take it up a notch, I have 3 things to do, which will help you expand your mental equivalent so that as you start to grow and start to expand and accept more, you don't get hit by the ceiling and pull yourself back down. By the way, I've watched this for 35 years. I've taught students for 35 years. I know you're saying, oh my God, she's so young. How did she do that? I started when I was 12. Anyway. Actually, I was doing this long before I became a minister. I just, now the church pays me instead of the March of Dimes. So I've watched people almost become afraid when it gets too good. And some of you are shaking your head, yes. It's like, it's too good. This is scary. The first class that I taught in this particular center, which was then called the Science of Mind Center, the very first class, someone was in college and wanted prayers around taking the test, and she didn't test well. She never got good grades. And that whole term, she tested well, she got A's. And what she came to class saying, this is spooky. Why? Because she reached her ceiling. She was a B student. How dare she be an A student? To let go of this ceiling so that we can continually take it up a notch, you need to do 3 things. The first one, and this is a takeoff from Richard Bach's book Illusions, where he said, stop arguing. If you argue for your limitations, sure enough, they're yours. That's from Richard Bach. Well, I want to say it this way. Stop arguing for your deficiencies. Stop arguing for your deficiencies. There's a game that I used to play in some classes. It was really a game. It's called the money game. And I've done it in some workshops on receiving. And by the way, we'll have place for workshops again. So workshops will start to happen again because we'll have our own space and we won't have to rent it. But we would play the game and people would, pass around dollar bills, and some people would have a 5. Some, they could only find a 10. It's like, well, I don't know if I want to pass around a 10. And other people would say, I can't take somebody's 10. I mean, it's just a money game. Like, please accept this with my blessing. And people, I love it. They blow it up out of, And then it got like everybody was sort of used to 1s, 5s, and 10s. So I had them go into meditation. And I'd have them be with a friend, and a friend would give them a 20. They're still okay. Only a few people would ruffle. By the way, I can read a room. So I'd say, okay, have your friend give you a 20. Just a few people would jerk. And then I say some things like, okay, now have your friend hand you a $100 bill. A few more people would jerk. Their eyes are closed, but they're kind of jerking. And I say, now, you're going out to lunch with your friend and they're writing you a check for $1,000. More people jerked. Now you're going out to lunch with your friend and they're writing you a check for $10,000. Jerky, jerky, jerky. So I'll go around and ask people, what's wrong? What? And thing that came out of their mouth so many times is that I'm not worthy of this kind of money. I don't deserve this. I didn't earn it. And there's got to be a catch. I'm telling you, I have been given a $10,000 check. I just took it. And just in case you think that's my limit, go ahead, test me. I'm willing to see what my limit is. Because the gift did not come from the person, that came through the person, because God's my source. And they actually thought that I had done enough for them in their lifetime that I was worth a $10,000 check. I'm worth much more than that. These ideas were accepted in your soul many, many moons ago, many, many suns ago, before you were even cognizant of what you were doing or could have self-mastery enough to catch your thought and change it, most likely before the age of 5, when most of our formative ideas are embedded in us. You got the idea that you weren't worthy, that you have to earn it, that you're not good enough to just receive. And our youthful selves were only trying to fill in the gap of something they did not understand, which, by the way, is what every mind does. But instead of being able to evaluate it, is this true, is this beneficial, the young person just took it in. And we've been living off of it ever since. An illustration is something that I discovered recently, is I knew that well, let's just put it this way. At the age of 9 years old, when my father left my mother, not 9 months. At the age of 9 months, when my father left my mother, some 9-month-old saw this happening, felt the feelings, couldn't put it together, but eventually put it together that I had done something wrong to make my dad leave. And because my mother was a single mother at a time when there were not many single women working, and women didn't get paid the same as men, and she was wondering how the world she would support herself and a child, so she became incredibly distracted. And I watched that distraction, lived with that distraction, and came to the conclusion that I must not be lovable. So I acted out of that forever and ever, until I finally got to Egypt, went to 2 Holy of Holies, and was shown that I believed there was something wrong with me, and shown that I was not worthy of love. And then those times I started to correct that belief. But to know and go back to see what really happened, I can understand that I am absolutely innocent, because a 9-month-old baby is innocent. I am innocent. And I was the victim of someone else's unskilled behavior, and that was a bunch of shit. Oftentimes, we are just living out of other people's shit. And you just got to call it what it is, because you're never going to clean it off your shoes unless you call it what it is. Isn't it interesting? Shoes, soul. I didn't get it till I said it either. So if you believe that you are not worthy of accepting good when the universe's job is to give good to you, if you believe that you have not earned it and that there will be some catch and you'll pay somehow, that is shit. Shit. God, I love it. They clap when I cuss. So here is the antidote. I'll say it out loud and then we'll say it afterwards. I am a child of the universe, and accept all the good it has to bestow upon me. Now, this is where the lady was looking for a pen. Where's the pen? I gotta have a pen. Where's the paper? Oh my God. But this is important. This is important. We need to have this going off in our head. I am a child of the universe and accept all the good that the universe wants to bestow upon me. Now, why does it want to bestow that upon me? Every one of these talks are on a YouTube channel, the CSL YouTube channel, and about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I talked about we live in a system that supports creation. There's a system that's job is to support us. There's a system that is willing to give to us to the degree we are willing to accept. But we have judged ourselves and therefore developed a ceiling. I'm only this good. No, you're this good. And then you're this good. And then you're this good. Because God created you. You are a child of the universe. You are a child of creation, loved and held magnificently in the heart of something that is so much greater than ourselves, and we can't even describe it. So, here's your affirmation. Let's say it together. I am a child of the universe and accept all the good it wants to bestow upon me. Let's say it again. I am a child of the universe and accept all the good it wants to bestow upon me. Now let's just put one more in. Now. Because the mind can go, yeah, I'll accept that. Let's put it off till Friday. Who knows what could happen today? All right, go quickly. Okay, Emma. Emma said that there's a good for me and I ought to have it, and that good is soul-satisfying stuff. And we don't deserve it, by the way. Deserve means earned. It's not earned. You know, the trees didn't earn the nutrition in the soil. The birds don't earn worms. Well, you were good. You can have 2 worms today. We got to get over that. You just ought to have it because that's what the universe does. The universe supports creation. How many of you were created? You didn't make yourself, right? Then you ought to have your good. The soul-satisfying stuff of life. People have a tendency to move into the mystical teachings of Emma Curtis Hopkins and start naming what their good is. But if they don't understand they deserve that, then it's just a futile act. What will happen is you'll see what you want in someone else's possession. So, first thing is, we stop arguing for our deficiencies. A deficiency was a bad idea done as elegantly as a 5-year-old could. And that there's a good for you and you really ought to have it. It's not that you earn it, it's that you deserve and you don't deserve it, but you ought to have it. And then the third thing to do, to allow yourself to continue to expand, to continue to release that ceiling, is do things that make you feel good about yourself and then congratulate yourself for doing it. Now that's way beyond self-care. It's way beyond going to a spa and getting a massage. Do things that make you feel good about yourself, like telling the truth, speaking up, boosting the confidence of another, going out of your way to make someone else's life better. Forgive, forgive, forgive. Forgive little things, forgive big things. Little things pile up, big things are looming over us. Forgive the person that had erratic behavior on the freeway, and forgive the parents who didn't know how to really cultivate the innocence of their child and their goodness. My mother and father were doing the best they could. They had no ill will. They just didn't know how their energy was getting all over me. They are innocent as I am innocent. We forgive, we forgive, we forgive. We build our intuition and prove it to ourselves. The theme for our retreat was, it's in every one of us to be wise. We sang it in almost all ways and sang it again and then again. And people were going out and asking things of the trees, and the trees were giving them information, and there was this symbiotic relationship, and trees were talking and chatting away and won't shut up. And, trees were coming to me in my sleep and saying, hey, would you tell so-and-so my name is, it's weird. But they proved the intuition because the information they got was good for their soul. When you get a hunch, if it's good for your soul, it's your intuition. If it's not good for your soul, if it doesn't make you feel good, it's just your neurotic thinking. Get over it. And then the last thing is to pray, 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 because it feels good. One of the definitions of prayer that I love from the Aramaic is to set a trap. To pray is to find out what God says about us. But this is such a good one. I found out that in Sanskrit, which is the ancient language that all of the Hindu holy books were written in, the Sanskrit word for prayer is pal-al. And pal-al means seeing ourselves as wondrously made. To pray is to see ourselves as wondrously made. Let's do that. Let's take a deep breath. And see ourselves as wondrously made. And so I know that there's one life, and that life is God's life. And that life is perfect. It is in order. It is harmonious. And we, of course, can always opt out of that harmony. We can opt out of that perfection. We can opt out of the way things are. We can opt out of that life that wants to grow and to thrive and to flourish. We can opt out of that, but let's not today. Let us know that there's one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect, and that life is our life now. That life is my life. That is your life. That is our life. Our life wants to live perfectly, giving our gifts, our talents, our inspiration to others, and receiving all that it takes to grow from good to gooder and gooder again. I give thanks that we are opening up to the divine fact that we are a child of the universe and we are wondrously made. Take a deep breath. And know that you are, I am, everyone is wondrously made. And there is not some sort of cosmic edict that says, you're on earth, now deserve the good you get. No, 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 no. That's not what the universe says. That's not what God says. Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and you might have it more abundantly. And I spread before you a banquet, not just of things, but soul-satisfying stuff. That your life may be full, that you may be satisfied, that you may overflow with blessings onto others, and that all may flourish around you. That is the will of the Most High God, and I will to will that will. I will to be an instrument of that manifestation of what a human being can be. Who's with me? Say yay and amen. Then it's done, and so it is.